the overlap isn't bad with like me recording and video at the same time, which I did it before and I think should be fine. But hopefully that's the case again. All right. So some things I want to talk about that are going to change. One thing I lied about. Notes, you should be expected to do it every day. Most of you are going to be here most of the time anyway. Assignments, I'm going to change. I love you. I told you I was going to give you 2 days, but I'm not. So like right now, I'm giving you homework 2 days because of the overlap with, I get that you have a lot of classes to do and all that stuff. I'm going to move towards homework every single day, do every day, just like it's a regular year. So like, we're going to have homework today. When I see you in class tomorrow, you should have it out on your desk ready to go, and I just walk around the room and check. And it should take me 2 minutes to do it instead of 20 minutes to check it online, which I like. Which means if you're not here tomorrow and you're not here until the next day, you would be showing me 2 homeworks that day. You got that? I'm going to be a little lenient with that like this week because I'm saying this to you guys now, but maybe some other groups aren't going to watch it until it's too late to realize that. So I'm going to be a little lenient to see how it goes, but I don't think we should be set up too bad. Also, I think a lot of you are probably working under off days, and I would imagine you aren't going to anymore with the schedule because it's not as open. If somebody has issues, I can work around it, but I think as a class, it's going to go easier to do it this way. So just keep in mind that homeworks are going to be that way. Tests, we're going to start to do them just like a regular test in class. If it's a test on a day that you are not there, then you have 2 options. The next day you come in, you miss class to sit outside and take your test, or you stay for class and come before or after school to take your test, which I know is not the most ideal, but at least that gives us options. We're going to try it for the first one, see how it goes, and move on from there. So technically we have that the Chapter 6 test is Thursday. I'm still telling you that it's Thursday because we haven't 100% made any decisions to change that, but we're leaning maybe towards Friday. I don't like Friday option because of the people who aren't here Friday and that being the weekend. So I'll let you know that today. Her and I just need to actually sit down and talk about it once we've talked today for a definite of if it's Thursday or Friday. Okay, so notes for today. Just go ahead and get out paper to work with.
This one, nobody's here Friday. This Friday.
This Friday you are.
I don't think anybody's here.
Yes, this Friday is. I'll double check it. I'll double check it.
I was gonna say, I know I don't.
So that's another big thing is, and this is good for you guys and good for me. You can think about the material we're in right now, Chapter 6, and binomial and probability and that kind of thing, versus the type of test that we gave with like Chapter 4 with experiments and observational studies. Experiment and observational studies is a lot longer. It takes longer to do a problem. We had to give part of it as a take-home. When we get into probability, it's a lot less wordy and a lot more mathy, and they don't take nearly as long. And they also don't take nearly as long to grade. So starting here on, tests should be 1-day tests and not take home unless we change something with a certain piece. And tests should get graded quicker because they're a lot quicker to grade without all the wording. So no, we do not intend to do a take home. If I decide to switch that at some point, I would let you know. But for this one, no, we're not going to take home. But that's a good question. Another thing is, to be honest, your take home were probably worse than they were if they were in class. I think a lot of you just put it off and just wrote down what somebody else said, and it made a big difference. So I think test grades will actually go up when they're in class. All right, so reviewing, I want to write down what I did for first video. And so I just explained all this stuff that I just said with the assignments being switched, the notes, the way they're going to be, with me online, and the way the test is going to be on Friday or Thursday, whatever day it is. So I just want to go over binomial and geometric first. So you might not be writing a whole lot right now when I'm first talking. That's up to you. But based off of your cumulative, there are clear issues. If I check my criteria for checking for binomial, what do I write? Another thing that's kind of a side note that's a little weird, when you say something or you raise your hand, there's so many reflections and glares and bouncing off that I can't tell who talks half the time. So if you're trying to get my attention and I don't know where it's coming from, I don't take offense to anything. Like, just make sure you let me know who it is that's saying something. I mean, call it on answer, don't care. What do we call it instead for geometric? So let's just go over this really quick while we're thinking about it. B stands for what? Binomial, so you would write option or option. One thing I saw a lot on the cumulative is people just wrote, but let me give myself more room and I'll just write it for binomial and switch it. So here we actually need to write binomial. So let's just do an example of flipping a coin to get tails. And I'm not explaining more other than that on purpose. So binomial, I would write heads, tails. So showing that there's two options. What do I actually need to write about independence? Each what? And some people were doing a better job of putting more to it than just that and saying like it resets every time. I'm probably something like more descriptive, and that was fine. But I need that what is independent, each coin flip is independent. N stands for what? I would have to give you a scenario here that says like, but I wrote it without that so I can use it for geometric and binomial. And then what does the S stand for? Like what am I, generically this is always what? Stays the same. And a lot of people miss that on the cumulative. So it's probability of success remains the same. So if I wrote that in context, I would say probability of tails is 0.5 what? Each. So I was a little bit lenient on the pieces that are missing here. I'm not going to be that lenient on the test. So make sure you're adding in those things like what's independent, the coin flips. A lot of people didn't write the word binomial. They just wrote this. And that its probability of success is the same each trial. So if I were doing geometric instead, N becomes T, and now I am doing this, what? And I'm going to be picky here. Yes, it's number of trials until success. What word do I want before that? First success. So, criteria. Just going over criteria stuff really quick. Everything else, BI and S would have been the same here with geometric. Somehow we're getting lost in the easiest part of it. Like, this is the harder part. The math is the easy part. and y'all are getting really lost in the math. So I want you to take a second to step back. You're gonna need a calculator. Those are all clean. I thought the cumulative grades were not good. I also gave you 4 points, and I also didn't count off 7, I think. And I was also very lenient on like 4 problems. But I was kind of surprised with where the test grades were in general. When I give points back on an AP exam, on an AP test, I don't give points back because you did bad. I give points back because I think that there's something I could justify with the way I did things for why you guys missed the problem. I added 2 problems that I'm not going to talk about too much because there's some people who haven't taken it. I added 2 problems in there that the wording of them, it was kind of funny with the context. I took a lot, but I also adjusted a little bit there. One point that I'm giving back is because of something I did with binomial, not solving the problem, but the way we write it out. So let's say we're going to look at this one, flipping a coin 7 times to get tails. And I'm just going to kind of start over. Want the probability of exactly 3 tails out of 7 coin flips. All right, so on this test, I want you to write a little bit more specific now because we have 2 options. We have binomial and geometric. Calculator notation gets you 0 credit on the AP exam, so same with mine. Which just means if I write out whatever, no one's going to look at that and give you any credit. But I can write down the things that I use there to be able to get credit. So, is this a binomial or geometric? Binomial, why? Because I know how many times I'm flipping the coin. Gives us a set number of trials. So, I want to write binomial. This is basically saying, in my head, I checked, BINS, that works, it's this one. So you need to write, if it's binomial or geometric, which I didn't make you do on the test because we didn't know what geometric was. What are other things that problem up there gives me? Which is, what else? And so I go ahead and write what I define as success. What am I defining as success? So that way I don't have to write it as probability of tails. I can just write P. So what is probability of getting tails? And then the other thing is, I thought y'all started to say this, X. So I am finding the probability that X equals 3. All of these things are going to get you credit. Even on the cumulative, when some of you obviously have no idea how to do this in your calculator, I gave you 2 out of 3 points if you could get it set up all the way up until you plug numbers in. Because that was a lot of the work for that problem. With this one, it's an equal, so I don't have to do much. So we have 2 options in our calculator, PDF and CDF. When do we use PDF? When it's an equal. When do we use CDF? Now, these are not our only options. Equals and less than or equal to are not our only options, but those are our only calculator button options. So we would have to switch it to that to be able to use a calculator button. So at this point in my calculator, which does not get me any credit, I would be doing binomial PDF. So this is second distribution. I want you to hold on this with me. And what's our first thing it asks us for? Trials. What are our trials? What's the next thing it asks for? P, which is, and then, and when we type that in, we get our answer of okay, let's think about this first. 3 out of 7 coin flips. How many do we expect to get out of 7 coin flips? 3.5. That is the mean of a binomial because we just do n times p. That's pretty close to 3.5, right? So do we think we're going to have a really, really low probability or a decent probability? If we think that it's going to be about 3.5, 3 is pretty close to that. This one shouldn't be a bad probability. What is our answer going to be? 2.7 what? So this is your, everything over here would be what I want on your test. So first thing is being able to plug it in the calculator. Some of you have no idea how to do that. Now it's using these two and manipulating them. So I'm going to keep going with the same problem so I don't have to keep rewriting stuff. Let's say we're now finding probability that x is less than or equal to 3. Make it super easy. So in my calculator, I'm typing in binomial CDF now because it's less than or equal to of 7, 0.5, the highest number I want, which is 3. This is doing what? What does CDF mean? What does the C mean? Cumulative. What does it mean, Tom? Cumulative. Adding up to that point. So I'm adding up all the ones from there. What are the ones that come before 3? 0, 1, 2, and 3. And that's my one point that I'm giving you back is because when I was telling you to draw write numbers out, I wasn't writing the number 0 there. And I didn't want to throw anybody off with that, even though people that did it wrong didn't do it because that issue, I noticed that y'all are writing it starting at 1 and I didn't want to mess you up with that.
Do we always have to write those numbers out?
No. But I'm going to show you why in a second. Or why I do it in a second. So for this problem, all I would have to write is this stuff. If it's in the same column, I don't need to start over. And then that, and then immediately type in my calculator and get to my answer. Well, my answer better be bigger than that because I'm taking that and adding stuff to it. And what do I get? Exactly 0.5. Right. This is not a button in our calculator. Greater than is not a button in our calculator. This is why I write out the numbers. Because I always have people who mess up something dumb. Which numbers are greater than 3? So I'm going to circle what I want, or box what I want. Now, do I have a button in my calculator that can do greater than or equal to? No. But I do have a button in my calculator that can do less than or equal to. So I can figure it out as what I don't want. So this is the same thing as writing, well, if it's what I don't want, it's complement. How do you always do complement? So 1 minus, now I can plug that in my calculator as p parentheses x is and that's why I do this because some people do it to 2 and some people do it like they pick the wrong number. If you draw this picture out, you're going to keep yourself from picking the wrong number. So now at this point, I already know this problem because I did it up there, so I did pick that one on purpose. So to find this answer, I'm gonna do 1 minus, I plug in CDF for that, which I just got. And find my answer. So if the problem is greater than or equal to 5, write down what you're supposed to write down, plug it in your calculator, and get your answer. The way I would want it on the test, starting from there. And I don't count off if you don't write this, like the number thing like I do, but I can give you points sometimes if you do this and don't write it somewhere else the right way. So which numbers do I box? 5, 6, 7. So how do I rewrite this? 1 minus. What's the last number I don't want? So probably that x is what is the CDF for 4?
7, 7, 3, 4,
To this point,
2, 6.
4-ish, depending on where you round it up. That's what, 6? 6, okay. Any questions about, I give you this, you know what to write down. And the reason I'm spending so much time on this is because geometric works the exact same way with this part of it. It's just something else you plug in your calculator. So if I now switch to same thing, flipping a coin tells us success. So if this is a different problem, I'm starting from here. What is probability my first tail will be on the third flip? Now tell me, if we hadn't written anything before right now, this is the very first problem, tell me what I want you to write on your paper. Geometric. Now I would want, and I'm gonna, again, I don't count off if you don't do this, but I like to do that. So probability of success is 0.5. What else do I have? What do I not have this time? I don't have the n. So I'm finding the probability that it's going to be 3. I talked about this in the video. I try to keep geometric using y and binomial using x, just so that like you see which one I'm doing. But this is a random variable, and I can always pick which letter I use. So like using x is fine. But this one I would write as equals 3. Because I want it exactly on the third flip. So using your calculator is now the exact same way, except we're using geometric instead of binomial. Geometric's the very last one, so when you go to second distribution, if you go up, it gets you there easier than scrolling all the way down. And so am I using PDF or CDF? PDF, because we're doing it equals. And what do we get for this one? 125? I usually do 4. Is there anything else? Alright, now, don't write what I'm about to write. I think I do remember some of you getting confused with this. If I were doing this problem, and I asked you to write out the equation would be 7 choose 3, and then what? To the what? Alright, so this is how many different combinations of 3 successes out of 7 I could get. Probability of success, how many do I want? Probability of failure, how many do I want? Plugging this equation in would give me this answer, even though y'all don't really know where to find that in the calculator, that part. But I could write this. The only reason you need to know this is because you're going to end up coming across multiple choice problems where it's going to give you different ones. And you're going to have to figure out like which one was plugged in correctly. You have to know the equation for that. You don't have to use this equation to plug it in because our calculator does that part for us. But the thing that I noticed on the cumulative where you were doing wrong with that is like for this one, I would have to do it for 4, and then I'd have to do it for 5, and then 6, and then 7, and then add them all together. And I definitely don't want to write out that whole equation for every single one of them. So don't write 1 if you're not going to write them all, because then you look like you're doing the wrong thing. So I don't want you to write that equation unless you have to. But if it's equal, technically I could. This one, how would I write this equation? And again, don't write this part. But if I were writing the equation for this one, the equation for this one would be what? I did something. What happened before my third one? I failed. What's probability of failure? How many times did I fail? And then finally, I got what I wanted. I succeeded. How many of those were there? I use this more often than I use binomial. Like sometimes if I'm doing a test type thing, I don't go through geometric, CDF, PDF kind of stuff and go straight to that because my mind goes here when I'm dealing with 8 chapters worth of stuff as opposed to there, and that's fine, but you don't have to write this equation. And if you're doing something with CDF, it's going to mess you up. So same problem, continue on. Now if I do it, probability, same problem, but probability that I don't get my first tail in first 5 flips. So I just worded that one a little bit different. So this is actually just like we've been doing. I can write this one as up to 5, and then where would be the first number that I've circled? Like that. If I don't get it in the first 5 flips, I could get it where? The 6 or the 7 or the 8, so forth. So I could write it as like that. So this is saying greater than or equal to, you just told me. So really I would want to rewrite this one as, and some of you might go straight to it because of the wording, 1 minus probability that y is less than or equal to 5. So sometimes the wording can be a little bit different there. So what am I plugging in my calculator this time? What button am I using? Geometric CDF of 5. And what does that give you? Geometric CDF of 5?
9, 6, 8,
Which ends up giving me
8, 0,
rounded was, yeah. Right, yeah, because the way you did it. So the idea of this part works the exact same for both of them. Now, this part is actually very different for one reason, that you will get points counted off on my test, AP exam, everything, if you do it wrong. Where does this number start? Why? I could have zero successes. That makes sense. But I know you have 0. This is where when I was doing it really quick the other day, I wasn't writing 0 there. That's why I'm making a big point about this. Geometric. What is this last number? 1. Why? I can't get my first success if I don't do it. So it only goes down to 1. You have to make sure that you know the difference between those two. Some of you are leaving off 0 when you're doing it like by hand. Now doing it by hand is absolutely fine. I could have done this one as probability of 0 plus probability of 1 plus probability of 2 plus probability of 3 and then subtracted it. I could have done this one and added them up piece by piece. That's fine. But I'm showing you how to do the calculator part of it to shorthand things. But you can always write it out like one at a time and add them up. I want to split the videos here.